Hello and Tashidalek. My name is Tenzin Choki. I'm the host for our Tibet TV segment. We will be hosting in the next few weeks to come 4 segments about Tibet and Tibetan culture in Canada. Today's segment is called Arts and Culture. Like any traditional society, Tibetan arts, music and literature is intrinsically linked with our way of life and our culture. Our first guest here today is Dorje Singh. He is a Tibetan singer, songwriter, composer, musician, performer, multi-talented person. He composed his first song, I think, when he was in his grade 6. His first album came out in 1993, and so far he has over 11 albums under his name. On the other hand, Thupten La, who was born in Tibet, at the age of 27, I believe, he decided to cross over the Himalayas to make his way into freedom in exile, actually, and lived in India for a while. And now he's here in Canada pursuing his passion, lifelong passion for photography. So welcome, both of you. And so before we start, I would request Dorje La to introduce himself and tell us a little bit about himself.
My name is Dorje Singh. My background, I'm a Tibetan. My parents escaped from Tibet in 1959. I was born in India, and that time my parents are working in the road construction in India, in North India. And during that period, my parents was passed away because of the weather change between Tibet and India. So I was adopted by His Holiness the Dalai Lama youngest sister, Jesu Pemala. They have a Tibetan children village school, and I was raised in educated Tibetan music, Tibetan culture in our Tibetan school. So, and later on, I was very interested on Tibetan, especially in music and dance, in the school performer too. And then I became a school performer, and then I joined the Tibetan Institute of Performing Arts in Dharamshala in North India, where the Dalai Lama live. So, later on, then I used to teach Tibetan music and serve the Tibetan society back for like 15 years, Tibetan music and dance teacher, and later on then performing arts teacher in Tibetan school. And then I started to also I'm doing performing to the local virus of world tourists in India, in North India. And then I started to call my performance 1 hour in Tibet. That means the people make feel that the audience in Tibet. So the name of title, the performance is called 1 hour in Tibet. And later then I got many invitation from the country, Europe. I was performed there in many festivals, and also in Canada. I got many invitation from the various festival in across Canada. So then I start to stay here in Canada.
All right, and Thupten La, we talked about you leaving home and coming, basically leaving home, right? So what compelled you, what made you leave Tibet?
And I was 27 years old when I left Tibet, and I was grew up with my father, and because my mother passed away, and when I was a year and a half. Mm-hmm. When I was a child, my father always talked about His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Every night I went to bed, my father would tell me stories. My father couldn't read, but he knew about Tibetan histories. He was a really religious person, and he sent it to me in a monastery in Neva. I stayed there, and for 13 years I studied Buddhism. At that time, my Lama Jabji Jang Shirvajan Rinpoche, he mentioned lots of times about His Holiness Dalai Lama. My master, and he built a new monastery because the old one was destroyed in 1959 in the revolution. And he has right now and built also on non-monastery too, and actually we have 1,300 monks and 200 nuns in our monastery. We were not allowed to talk about His Holiness the Dalai Lama because Chinese occupation. We couldn't even put up His Holiness the Dalai Lama pictures in the monastery. When I was there, I really wanted to see His Holiness because my father influenced my mind. I would dream His Holiness, and we didn't have freedom of religions.
So you wanted to come because of His Holiness?
Yes, right. Then I wanted my life to be free.
Yeah.
That's I left Tibet.
And I know that you've gone through a lot of difficulties and challenges while making that journey from Tibet to first to Nepal and then eventually to India. And I know that you're wearing something on your neck today.
Yes.
And there's a story behind it, and I would request you if you can share it with people watching today.
It was a really challenge, and we didn't have any traveling documents. And it was really difficult to live with my father. But anyway, and I escaped with 42 Tibetan people. And I crossed the Himalayan mountains to see His Holiness the Dalai Lama. That time, we were so cold and hungry because we couldn't carry too much food and clothes. We were so scared because the Chinese army was watching for Tibetan people and across the Himalayan mountains. One day, we saw the Chinese army trucks. We were so scared. We thought they would see us. Everybody hidden behind the rocks, and so on. We were saved. It was our lucky day. This was my second attempt. And the first time I was with 27 Tibetan people. They caught outside Lhasa and took it in jail. One day, and we were walking in the deep snow, lots of rocks. We found 2 Tibetan people there. They didn't have any food. They couldn't hardly walk. And we gave them food. They survived and got in India. After 19 days, and we got in a Tibetan Research Center. That time, my feet were so swollen. Over the next 2 days, and my toenails came off. Each time I look at this one, it reminded me my journey to India, how much we suffering across the Himalayan mountains. I think we're lucky because we didn't die. We didn't lose our feet and hands. So many Tibetan people died. They lost the hand, lost feet. So many people died and shot by Chinese army. But eventually, we got to India. We saw His Holiness the Dalai Lama's golden face.
Thank you so much for sharing this very personal story. I want everybody to also know that almost every year hundreds of Tibetans cross over the Himalayas to make their journey into freedom in India, where we have an exiled community set up by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And I, as a little girl, when I was 7.5, I made that journey and I left home and came to India. So yes, now with Dorjila, I know that music has been, you have talked in your introduction that music has sort of been this lifelong, passion for you. And my question to you is, what drives you? Like, I have seen you perform all over, you're always with your guitar bags. What drives you to be to be so passionate about Tibetan, keeping Tibetan music and Tibetan culture alive?
Yeah. As mentioned earlier, when I was in school, and I don't know that sometimes I'm wondering that because of how I get this kind of traditions, the Tibetan pure music and pure singing of my genetic, because I was born in India, I raised in India. So one thing that I realize sometimes that Tibetan have the special traditions that when the Tibetan people are walking on the road construction or and field or wherever, and they have a singing
Yes.
and music. Yeah. So when I was in the little kids and they lay down beside the road, and my parents and also my relatives, my uncles and aunts, they are walking road construction and they are singing, and I hear on the song like that. And later on I was in the school, I feel sometimes that somebody is singing on the mountain, feel like that. And then I was automatically comes my songs. And when I was in the class grade 6, I composed one song. That song is.
Do you remember it?
Yeah, that song is because of I just seen on the mountain,
Yeah.
and then they have a lot of sheep going, and in the North India they have a lot of mountain. Yeah, so I just feel that I never sing Tibet, but I feel that Tibet is like that.
So your
So I
first song
compose,
came
yeah.
as an inspiration from thinking about Tibet.
Yes, and then inspire because of in the school and some teachers and school, we have not that much opportunity because of that time school is like a wooden house and no good electricity, and we have no facilities for any music instrument. And all school have a one instrument, like one guitar, and but I love to do something to compose. When I was composing, that I all in remind, in memory, in not have written, because we have not good educated to facilities of to notation, and so just in memory. And then all of my friends and also teacher, they told me about, oh, you are doing good, and then I start to be way to go the Tibetan music. And because one thing is that we are in other country, like we are refugee in India, so we have to preserve our culture and also song. And also I love to be research the song from the old people
Elder generation.
yeah, to myself. And also I when doing the school dance competition, I sometimes used to ask the old people to the song, and then I make this song for just modify a little bit modified, but the main structure
More
of
nice.
culture, then I give it, and then we perform in the school time. And then teachers and friends, all they like, and I go. And then later on I joined Tibetan Institute of Performing Arts, and 5 years I more research study about the Tibetan music, and I when I was in school, I started to play flute, and then Tibetan lute, and then Tibetan dolsimar, piwang. Then I play all the instrument. I more study in the Tibetan Institute of Performing Arts, and then I started to perform, and then I because of in the way of Tibetan is serve back, because I was grown in a Tibetan society and Tibetan school, and so I had to go back to serve the same school for to the teach Tibetan music to the younger generation and small children, to teach Tibetan music and song. And then the way of many friends told me that you are good to be a performer. You come in Tibetan, North India, Dharamshala, and you start to perform, and then I start to perform, and many tourists coming and giving a lot of donations, and then I was more encouraged, and then I start also in the Tibetan music school in North India, and small kids coming to learn the Tibetan music. And I start my private tuition, and then this comes, money is like that. Some people thought that it's important, but come and go, and music gives them for happiness and also and safe preservation the our culture, and this beautiful culture is. I don't want to lose this my music in this world, or keep it in. I want to separate my music all the time. Therefore, we have the musician. Some musicians have not that much rich because of it's not be all the time have a full-time job. Yeah. So, but I'm very.
So you're balancing your
yes, that's
music passion and your personal life, providing for your family, and it's tough, but yes, you have given your passion precedence over what's materialistically important in life, and I really, really appreciate that.
Yes.
And going back to Thupten, I know that we have heard from you about your journey from Tibet to Nepal, and then eventually to India, and now you're here in Canada, right? You've been here for over 12 years, and so much of difficulty and challenges. So finally you're here in Canada. I wanted to ask, why Canada?
Before I came to Canada, I had heard it was one of the best country for refugees in the world. And it is a peaceful country and multicultural country. So many people come from different countries. They can keep their culture, or religions, and it has also a universal healthcare, and also lots of opportunity to get education here. It is a wonderful country, and I came as a refugee, and now I'm a Canadian citizen. I'm really proud of this country because I was a homeless person with no family here. I lost my country, but they saved me here. But my mind's always go back, my family in Tibet. Canada's beautiful country, that's why I come here.
Okay. And I wanted to also ask you that, even now your final destination, that you have come to Canada and made it your home. But through this whole journey, we have talked before, so you said that you've always in the back of your mind wanted to be a photographer, and photography has been your lifelong passion. So how did Canada, in a way, help you achieve that goal? Being in Canada,
Yeah, photography is my passion, and it allows me to keep in pictures and my memories and whole my life. When I was in Tibet, I was really interested in taking pictures of sceneries and celebrations. At that time, I didn't get a chance to buy a camera, but I borrowed one and small film cameras from my friend. And one time I took the trip to Lhasa with his camera. That time I took so many pictures and beautiful places. But I couldn't afford to get and develop all. I got one and large pictures developed, and which was of His Holiness Dalai Lama's palace. As a person for my father, he keep his special, keep all his life. I recognize photography and can make people happy, and that made me keeping my passion for photography. And when I got in Canada, I bought a couple of cameras, but I didn't know how to use it too properly because of the language. Then I went to an ESL number of years, and after I went to high school and graduated, then I took a basic photography course at UN Change. After that, I went to George Brown College. I took a professional photography courses. I also took workshops. Now I'm taking photography classes at the Ryerson University. I have done many types of photography, fashion photography. I take a lot of portraits and even pictures. And also I take family pictures, a wedding, and photography for companies. It is my passion.
Right. So I know I've been inspired hearing your story numerous times, and I really do wish you all the best from the bottom of my heart. And I hope that one day when his next album comes, maybe you can do an album cover, you know. So we'll look forward to that. And coming back to Dorjila, he talked about, you know, why Canada. So I wanted to ask you that you have traveled all over, you performed all over, and you are in Canada now. And I know that you have been invited by a music festival group to perform here Canada-wide, and then you decided to stay here, right? So I wanted to ask, you know, what was the reason behind?
Yeah. I got an invitation from the many various festivals from BC and Yellowknife, and many festivals like Alberta, and then I have three reasons to stay in Canada.
Yeah.
That first, I have no planned to stay before. Yeah, when I got an invitation. And I came to Canada and traveled to perform in BC too. And then the music, many people like music, and they have a very big platform of musicians, and also multicultural in Canada. It's a very good opportunity to the connection with the musicians. And therefore, one thing is that, and second is that about we have a political reason to stay to Canada, yeah? And third is that about my children, future education is more opportunity than my back home. You know that we have not that much, we have no citizenship in India, so therefore I decided to, I asked my friends to call, and then it's good to stay in Canada. Then I started to stay and Asylum for Refugee, and Canada government accepted me to stay here in Canada. I'm very happy. And finally, in last year, I also this
New album.
my new album.
Yeah.
That is in collaboration with a Canadian musician.
guy, yeah.
The musicians are very professional, and some have got Juno awards in this instrument. And the album title is called Nang.
It's home.
You know, Nang. Nang means you know, that home. Yeah. Now my inside home is in Tibet, but I couldn't stay in Tibet because now my home is
Canada.
in Canada. So this album name is Home. So yeah, I'm happy to stay here. I'm very good opportunity to performance, and my music is going. And recently I also joined in the audition of a multicultural musician in all over the world, and they chose me, and now
Congratulations.
I'm going to, thank you.
And I also wanted to emphasize that Dorjila is a single father to 3 children, so I understand the reasons why you may have stayed behind.
Yeah.
So with this, we have come to the end of our segment, Arts and Culture. I want to thank both our guests, Tupinla and Dorjila, for coming and joining me here. I hope that with this segment, we're able to make people understand that as much as preserving our Tibetan culture and arts is important, but also it comes with it comes at a cost of personal sacrifices and that people make. So there's always a challenge, but because of our political situation right now, we forego everything and make it a priority to preserve what is a part of our identity. So thank you so much for joining us, for watching the show, and Tujuna.